Farron Swamp. Hostile. Dangerous. Toxic. Uninhabitable. Farron Keep is the home of the Undead Legion. It's not entirely known if this place has always been so rotted, or if it was changed when the Abyss corrupted the Watchers. But one thing is certain. Between the Gru, the Corvians, Dark Wraiths, and even the Abyss Watchers themselves, nothing sane lives here anymore, and that goes double for this madman. Hello and welcome to Notebook Gaming. I'm Note, and this is the Madman of Farron build for Darksouls 3. The Madman of Farron is a low-level invasion build. In this video, I'm going to be going over his stats, equipment, game plan, and even his backstory and personality for the role players out there. I will have timestamps in the description below, so you can skip to whichever part of the video interests you most. Both eyes and skin stained green. It is unknown even to himself why he entered the swamp in the first place. That was many years ago, and he's all but forgotten his past. The only reminder being the Grave Warden blades he carries. Even his clothes have gone to tatters. What he does know is that he is a part of this swamp now, and all outsiders must perish. Whether by the rotten poison dripping from his spear, or by the lacerating slash of his twin blades. One thing is certain, outsiders must perish for daring step foot on his land. Now for the stats. The Madman of Farron is a low-level invasion build centered on invading in Farron Swamp and the Crucifixion Woods, and even the Cathedral of the Deep if you're feeling spicy. That being said, he's going to be at level 30, giving us 29 levels to put into stats. We have 17 in Vigor for a total of 829 HP, a decent pool of health for invasions at this level. Attunement, Endurance, and Vitality all have 10, as they aren't important to the build. Strength at 12 and Dex at 18 to reach the minimum requirements for our weapons. 12 Intelligence to reach the minimum stat requirements for the Storyteller Staff. 10 Faith because we don't need it for the build. And finally, 23 Luck to help us with our bleed and poison buildup, as well as boost the damage of our hollow infused weapon. Now then, for the equipment. This build is focused on poisoning your enemies to harass them and make them panic, then use your bleed to go in for the kill. And the equipment we use reflects that perfectly. For our first right-hand weapon, we have a hollow rotten Gru Spear, +3. This is going to be your main method of inflicting poison, and it's very useful for hitting enemies you don't want to get too close to. In our first left-hand slot, we have the Storyteller Staff. We're not using this staff to cast any sort of sorceries, we're simply using it for its weapon art, to help control area. And, as a bonus, if you do happen to poison someone with this weapon art, it happens to do more damage per tick than normal poison. For our second right-hand slot, we have Blood Warden Twin Blades, +3. Due to each two-handed attack hitting twice, bleed builds up quickly on your enemies. That combined with already being poisoned will allow you to melt even the tankiest of builds. Now for the armor. We have the Ragged Mask, the Master's attire and gloves, as well as the loincloth. What these armor pieces lack in damage absorption, they more than make up for in poison and curse resistance. They're not much, but they're all this madman has left of his past life. Next up, the rings. First off, the Leo Ring. We're using a spear, so the Leo Ring will help us get in a healthy amount of bonus damage on counter hits. Next, the Pontiff's Right Eye. We're going to be getting in a lot of hits trying to poison and bleed our enemies, so this will help keep our damage up. We also wear the Poison Bite Ring. We're going to be spending a lot of time in the swamp, so high poison resistance is key. This ring plus the armor means we can stand in the swamp for a solid 21 seconds before getting poisoned, which doesn't sound like much, but when compared to the average 7 to 13 seconds, it's quite substantial. Finally, we have the Untrue Dark Ring. In all honesty, this is only for Fashion Souls. This way, you don't have to be a red phantom when you invade, but can instead poison players in all your green glory. But feel free to switch this ring with one of your choice, be it the Fleshbite Ring for more poison resistance, or an Estus Ring to boost healing. The swamp truly is your oyster. And last but not least, the quick items. There's Estus, of course, as well as rotten pine resin. The Gru Spear may have innate poison buildup, but there's nothing that says we can't help it along. Purple moss clumps are very important due to how much time we will be spending in the swamp. a full stack of undead hunter charms to keep our poisoned enemies from healing, and finally, young white branches for those times you want to surprise your enemies with an ambush. Now then, with equipment out of the way, let's go on to your game plan when playing as the Madman of Farron. This is not a high DPS build or a tank. Invasions with this build are very much a war of attrition. Your goal is to poison your opponents and either whittle down or cut off their Estus reserves, then head in for the kill with bleed. You are prepared for poison, your opponent is not. Use this to your advantage. Retreat into the swamp if things get hairy. More often than not, your opponent will not follow you because they don't want to be poisoned while being invaded. You can use the Storyteller's Staff to harass timid players, as well as control the battlefield. Now remember, you're not always safe. Half of the players will go from timid to aggressive as soon as they're poisoned, as they know they don't have to be worried about your poison anymore. After all, you can't poison an already poisoned player. However, this is when you strike with the twin blades and bleed your opponent to death. Now, you have everything you need to play the Madman of Farron. Thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. Leave a comment down below if you have any ideas for builds that you might like me to try, or maybe even make a video on. I've been Note of Notebook Gaming. Have a wonderful